Welcome to the latest live stream here for Celtics Rundown, a part of the 5 Reasons Sports Network. I'm your host, Bobby Krivitsky, and today, 2 very special guests joining me from another part of the world. We have Leo Margo and Mati, who you might know from his social media account, Celtics Argentina. They are a part of the powerhouse that is Camino al Garden, which does exceptional work. So be sure to support them and check them out if you want to learn ball, especially about the Celtics. Leo, you sent us a treat that we will air later on in the show. So you get to go first right now. How you doing, my man?
Hey, Bobby, how are you? Thanks for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be with you. And Lucky, Mati is for me Lucky, and everyone calls Lucky. So here he's going to be Lucky, and I'm happy to be here to analyze and chat about the Celtics.
Mati, I went with the more formal, but maybe we'll switch and just go with Lucky moving forward. That is more commonly what you're referred to. I'd assume that's what, am I correct that that's what your audience knows you as, Lucky?
Yes.
So the name tag does say Mati right there, but we're going to go with Lucky. That's the proper if you know him. So Lucky, got to see you during that Celtics extended homestand recently. What did you take away from that experience?
It was, first of all, thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here, also with Leo. It was an unbelievable experience, being on the Celtics stage, on the TD Garden, being over there, meeting all you guys, everybody. It was awesome seeing the games. Thankfully, they were all like winning games. We didn't have like that much losses, except
Always
for the
helps.
last one. Yes, it always helps. But it was really an awesome experience.
Absolutely. It was really cool having you here. I certainly can speak for the beat. We all enjoyed that. And the Celtics, they are rolling of late. You can see them kicking it into a higher gear as the playoffs start to come onto the horizon now. So recently, they beat the Suns by 30 last night. They held the Kings under 100, 113-95. They got a 13-point victory in Portland, and they beat the Jazz by 22, which, considering Utah is playing capture the flag right now and trying to get the top prospect from Duke, I don't think that at least their front office was too disappointed in that outcome. Leo, take this in any direction you want to go in. And Mati, the same applies to you afterwards. What is something that stands out to you from this recent road trip?
I think the Celtics are playing the best basketball in the season. Maybe in the first part of the season, they play very well, but at this time they are playing hard. They have a good defense. They pass the ball with JD, without JD, with JB, without JB. I think this part of the season for the Celtics is the best, and I think they are preparing his path to the playoff, and they are gonna be again a good team in the playoffs.
Well said. Mati, what did you see on that front? What stands out to you from this Celtics road trip, longest one of the season?
I agree more or less with Leo. I think they're playing like team ball. They're playing like hard. They're doing what they should do, getting ready for the playoffs. Last 10 games. Now we have like 9 games left for the playoffs. They're trying to get the better seed. They're close to Cleveland, so we're going to talk about later. But I think like they're playing the best basketball they've been playing this season. I think that they playing better than last season, the one that they win the championship. I think like they're beating the better teams. Like they play against Cleveland, they play against Denver, OKC. They have some losses against them, but I think like with a full team, a healthy team, they have chances to win the championship again and back to back.
Yeah, and I think there's value in the fact that somewhat recently they went through a stretch where they faced really the top competition in both conferences, and that bodes well as they start to dial it in and get ready. Like you said, some of these losses, not to make excuses, but there were notable absences, and both sides can typically play that game of we didn't have player X, who's at least a part of our rotation, if not even more important than that description. But for the Celtics, as you guys pointed out right there and illustrated, they more closely right now resemble who they were a year ago. And that is saying that the opponent is irrelevant. So we're playing the Sacramento Kings at the end of the season here. Doesn't matter. It's about us right now and ramping up for the playoffs. And so last season, they really adopted this win the day mantra. And what it stemmed from was 2 years ago, they're coming off that 2022 finals run, and they start to look ahead during the regular season, and they got burned for it. Not just then, but when the playoffs rolled around, they weren't as ready to go as needed, and they fall into this 3-0 hole to Miami. Maybe if Tatum doesn't get hurt on the first play of Game 7 that year, things are different, but they dug themselves in that hole and had no margin for error. So then they come back. It's win the day mantra, stay present, and they could be playing Washington in December. You got the Celtics' best shot, or at least close to it. This year, Kristaps Porzingis even said after a win in Cleveland that, hey, we bring it when it matters most to us. We get up for the big games. And so to use the Wizards again as low-hanging fruit here, Washington might get geeked up to play the reigning champions and to prove themselves, but that feeling wasn't mutual. It wasn't reciprocated. Now, all of a sudden, as the playoffs are getting closer and the Celtics have to fine-tune minutes, rotations, and lock in on both sides of the ball, now it's a different story. So the Phoenix Suns, they're struggling, and they're a team that the Celtics could have beat with a much lesser effort. Doesn't matter. What you got was a 30-point drubbing last night. And so, Leo, I think it speaks to the Celtics locking in right now as these games start to matter more and more for the run that they'll go on this postseason.
Yeah, you're prepared to beat them all, and you have to beat them all. First off, let me tell something. My English is not the best, you know.
I think your English is excellent. We literally have never had a problem communicating, and I'll guarantee you there is not a listener who will have a problem understanding.
Any inconvenience, lucky we act as a translator, or maybe we can talk with Google Translate.
Now, Lucky's got it. Lucky's all over it.
Lucky's got it. Okay, perfect. I think the Celtics, they compete against everyone, always, even with injuries. The absence have been for everyone. This year, equality this year, last year. Let's remember what last year playoff were like. The Celtics beat them all, but I think this year they are prepared to beat them all, and this is the way to playing like this path. I think they are gonna they haven't rivals. Sorry for Cleveland, sorry for the Knicks, sorry for everyone, but playing like this way, they can lose.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think the path is much tougher this season. Now, some of those injuries you're going to the playoffs, you couldn't predict them until they actually occurred. So who's to say, on the health front, what team has the most fortune? But that is the part of what it takes to win a championship, any sport, any season, any era, any decade, is you have players that you just can't overcome if they go down. So was the Celtics path aided by injuries to guys like Jared Allen and Donovan Mitchell, for example? Of course, but that's a part of the reality of sports here, and that we're not playing with robots. And so that's a part of the deal here. But Lucky, I do think that it is important because the Celtics also understand that the path is going to be more challenging this season than it was a year ago. The league has gotten better, even though you could also say the Celtics have as well.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Like most of the teams from the East compared to last year, they got better. They prepared to beat the Celtics. That was like the standard. Like, for example, in the Knicks with Bridges, Karl Anthony Towns, they all decided to get better, different pieces to beat the Celtics. They seen what they needed from last year to beat the Celtics, and then they went to free agency or trade or whatever they did to get better, to prepare for the Celtics. But I believe, like what Leo said, that this type of Celtics basketball is like impossible to win against them. If they get ready, they decide to win, they decide to play the game they should play. For example, the game yesterday against the Suns, Masula didn't take out the starters. Like we were winning like by 30 last quarter, and they still were playing the game. Like he wants to win. Either way, he wants to win. He wants everybody to play, to not lose rhythm. So that's what I take about the Celtics this year. They got better. The rivals got better, but I believe like if they play the basketball they should play, they don't have a chance like to lose any series against anybody in the East.
But Joe is a psychopath.
Joe is the resident lovable psycho. We know that, and it's a really important point.
And we
Maddie,
love that.
Because, absolutely.
Okay.
And I think he's, there was so much talk about him versus Ime Udoka at one point, and even Brad Stevens. And I tried to hammer home the point that he is the ideal coach for where this team is at in their maturation and development. And that was before the championship and all of that. And you're really seeing it with him and his ability to instill and infuse his mentality and his mind frame onto this team. And there's even examples of it, like in the Netflix documentary about the starting five, and they followed Jayson Tatum last season. And Joe Mazzulla says, hey, this is a privilege. You get to have this type of scrutiny and conversation, and to have someone who can help you deal with those things as you're going through them, because they can be burdens, they can impact you and your mood and everything. And when you're Jayson Tatum, the vibe you're giving off has such a tremendous influence on the work environment and your teammates. So I think Joe Mazzulla, from getting this team to relish those moments when they're dealt with the most adversity possible, like when they're losing by double digits on the road in Indiana in the playoffs, for example, that ability is massive to this team's ability to get over the hump last season and to their prospects of trying to repeat this season and be the first team to lift the Larry O'Brien Trophy twice in a row since those KD Warriors did it in 2017 and 18. And again, Maddie, to circle back to something you brought up, they're crushing the Suns. It's late in the game, and he still has his starters out there. What it speaks to is something that Jayson Tatum brought up after the win against the Lakers at TD Garden that you were there for. And it's the idea that, hey, I'm not going to play in every game down the stretch here, but when I do, it's important that I get ramped up for the playoffs. And that's, again, another area where this fine tuning and the Celtics ramping it up is reflected, is guys are starting to play their playoff minutes, and you're seeing more and more, Maddie, of what these playoff rotations are looking like for the Celtics.
Yes, of course. They're getting ready. They have the rhythm. They're looking nice. They also have like the new appearances, if you want to say like that. For example, Baylor Scheierman. We have like good minutes for everybody. I don't know what Mazzulla is going to do with the rotation, if he's going to cut it up for the playoffs, if he's going to look like this. We have like 9 games left, so we're going to see more and more like when we get closer to it. But I feel like the rotation, the players, they're looking good. They have the minutes that they're going to have on the playoffs. They play like, as I said in the beginning, team basketball. They're not taking the shots that they want to take. They're taking the shots that they should take. So I think like the rotation for now is awesome. I think like it should be like 8 or 9 players total. And I think like they all in good rhythm and good shape.
Yeah, and Leo, he called on last season guys like O'Shea Brissett and Xavier Tillman Sr. had his moment in game 3 of the finals. So I don't know about you, but I don't think we can rule out that even someone like a rookie like Baylor Scheierman, who's starting to emerge, that they might get an opportunity, even if it's a short shift, and you go from there. I don't think we can rule out someone at least getting a chance in the playoffs from that stay ready group.
I think the rotation is set. The 8-9 players is set. The 5 starters, the 6. Sorry, Al. The 6 starters: Chase, Porzingis, Holiday, White, Al, Sam, Peyton Pritchard, and Luke Kornet. Then I think Joe we're gonna surprise. I think with Baylor, but only his head knows. I think it's a surprise for everyone. This ¿cómo sería este momento aquí?
This moment
of Baylor, but But I think the nine names we bring to the table, they are set. They know they know each other. They play harder again. I think Joey isn't gonna surprise us.
Without a doubt, we're going to get to Luke Kornet and Jayson Tatum and what that has looked like. Speaking of players who know each other, I just, again, in the playoffs, you tend to have, maybe it's a moment of necessity, but you tend to have to go at some point beyond your rotation. And so those are the top 9 guys there, like you mentioned. But what history tells us, and even Joe Mazzulla's history, just going back to the championship run, is that there might be a game where, hey, last season he called on O'Shea Brissett and they went on like a 20-0 run in the first half, game 2 against the Pacers. Like I said, Tillman in game 3 of the finals. So there's without a doubt, the rotation is solidified and who's in the extended rotation is understood. But for one reason or another along the way, history suggests you have to borrow and dip into and tap into that stay ready group along the way. And so Scheierman right now, at one point you would have thought the veteran Torrey Craig, but at this point it does kind of seem like Scheierman just keeps capitalizing on his minutes. We'll talk more about him in a little bit, but when it comes to the health front, there's a much bigger name here to get into, and that is Jaylen Brown, who said last night that he's on a minutes restriction. That's no surprise when you look at his playing time since returning, although it's the first time that anyone has confirmed that. And according to Jay King of The Athletic, Brown said of dealing with a bone bruise with posterior impingement in his right knee, quote, "It's new for me. I haven't really had issues with my knees ever in my career. So just trying to find a good routine to make sure I'm prepared and ready to go every night. But it's definitely been a challenge mentally and stuff like that." Leo, before returning against the Kings, Brown had missed 4 of the Celtics' last 5 games. The one he played in was the win in Brooklyn that he exited early because of lower back spasms. What did you take away from how they've looked without Jaylen Brown in the lineup recently?
I think with Hauser at the start, or maybe one game with Pritchard, they look good without JB. I love JB. I want to help him to be safe until the playoff. But I think the Celtics plays they are like a chorus. They played a choral game. They pass the ball with the sense. They put a feet in the paint and then split the ball to the corners. I think the guide is ¿cómo sería aquí? Lo tienen sabido.
Like they know
they know the guide. They know the rules. They know, yeah. they know how to play without a star and with a star, and this is awesome for a Celtics fan, for a Celtics media. They gave and give us a great show every night. So I think the Celtics without JB, they are playing well. With JB, play well. So enjoy it.
Lucky, what stands out to you from how the Celtics have played without Jaylen Brown on the floor?
For me, it's like there's a big difference from this season to last season. Maybe last season when there wasn't like a star playing, like for example JT, JB, KP, it was like more difficult for them to fill that gap and like get ready to win the games without them than this season. I think like this season they're more prepared. They play like they know how to play without them and they know how to play with them. But I think like these 4 games without JB, they were all wins. They were like comfortable wins. There we go. There wasn't like a close game. I think they took responsibility of that. They knew that they should win without JB. They should like show every single other team that they can win without a star. That they don't need everybody in the roster to win. They can win without them, with them. So I think like that showed that the Celtics are ready for this season. If they have any injury like last year in the playoffs without KP, or maybe the JT now with his ankle, or JP with what happened with the knee. I think they're ready to win if they have any injury or if they don't.
And
Yeah,
Bobby,
a couple
sorry,
things. Yeah, go ahead, Leo.
how did you see the Celtics without JB and JT?
Excellent question. That's where I'm going right now because a couple things stood out to me. One is how well they played at the defensive end of the floor without Jaylen Brown recently. And we know what he means to that defense. It's someone who prides himself on guarding the best perimeter player on the other team. And especially when he's healthy and his knee allows him to do so, is very effective at that oftentimes. And he's much better on the ball than off of it. So I think it works for Jaylen Brown and is best for the Celtics as a collective as well. But they held two of those opponents when he wasn't available under 100. And yes, the Nets and the Jazz are not the most talented teams in the world, but Will Hardy and Jordi Fernandez are outstanding coaches. Those two teams play really hard. And with 3-point variance, it's not that difficult or impressive if either one of them cracks 100. And yet they were not able to do so against the Celtics team, missing one of, and at times their most important perimeter defender. You can at least make the case for that, as talented as guys like Derek White and Drew Holiday are. But sometimes when you see what Jaylen Brown gives this team and how they feed off his energy as he's guarding a James Harden or a Steph Curry and on and on and on, it has such a tremendous ripple effect on his teammates. So that was really encouraging. And secondly, guys, is that the Celtics, it's going to be so important. Like Lucky, you referenced something from last season. Another thing we heard last season a lot from Joe Mazzulla was the ability to hit the curveball. And it's certainly a curveball if you find yourself in playoff minutes and Jayson Tatum needs a breather, for example, and Jaylen Brown's not available, whether that's an injury, foul trouble, whatever the case may be. And so you have to be able to handle those minutes where you might find yourself in a predicament with neither star on the floor. And so for the Celtics to look as crisp as they did, as you guys both pointed out there, without having Jaylen Brown, including not really a drop off in terms of execution at both ends, without Tatum or JB on the floor, that is massive and a really encouraging sign as we start to put everything in the context of they're doing this and what it looks like and what it means for the playoffs.
Yes, I think that's when, for example, Peyton Pritchard takes like the spot and the responsibility. He's playing like an amazing season. For me, he's a sixth man of the year. But that's when they take all responsibility and they like know what they have to do. For example, White, he had the career night in triples, in points. For example, Sam Hauser, he also did. Peyton Pritchard also did. So they know how to take the responsibility and take the spot, fill the gap when nobody's playing, for example, JT or JB or both. So that's what it takes like from the Celtics this year. They knew how to fill that spot. They knew what to do if they don't have the stars, if they do. So I think like every single one that's coming out of the rotation, apart from the starting five, knows how to fill the gap. Like, for example, if JB isn't playing, JT, for example, Nemi, Keta, knows how to take the spot from Porzingis or a Horford, for the same for Luke Kornet. So I think that's what I take from the roster.
Without a doubt. Now, Leo, you sent me something that I told you I geeked out. I was very excited and enjoyed watching it. There's just so many takeaways from this. So I'm going to cue it up right now, and you can give your overall assessment as it plays of what's become literally one of the most effective weapons in the league, and that is the Jayson Tatum-Luke Kornet pick and roll. It is generating the second most points per possession, according to Owen Phillips of the F5 Substack. He does great work, so support him as well. Here is what Leo put together, just breaking down and illustrating how potent this Jayson Tatum-Luke Kornet pick and roll combination is.
First of all, I think we are ready to the campaign Luke Kornet for most improved player.
Yes,
we are talking about
cosign.
We are gonna talk about this later. The video I did for today is based on pairing play situation between Tatum and Kornet, not just pick and roll. Okay. What is important to highlight in all the plays that we are going to see is that always, every time a pick and roll occurs, it's about creating as much space as possible by occupying the corners, the well occupations of the corners. This way, JT can create with the ball in hand, either or for himself, for Luke, fall towards to the rim, or of ball to the outside, like Jordan Walsh or Baylor Scheierman here in this play. Another issue to highlight is that when there is a defensive change, Tatum has enough space to separate from the defense and shoot at the rim, or to be able to attack the legs of the defender, who is often slower than him. And at least at the same time, if there is defending double or a double defense, Kornet goes quickly to the rim to take advantage on the fact that he's alone, like this. He's going to the rim. He creates space and, well, rebounding and score. Luke is very good at offensive continuity as well, so that's another point that doesn't always stand out in the stats. So I think this couple of players, JT and Luke, they're creating a lot of points. They are creating a lot of situations for these two people or the other players in the team.
Lucky, what are your thoughts when you look at just how effective the Jayson Tatum-Luke Kornet pick and roll has become this season?
It's like it's amazing. It's like a weapon for the Celtics, because you think about the stars and think they all gonna shoot, like they have to take like responsibility. We have a player like Luke Kornet that doesn't, like, for most of the people, like taking out the Celtics fans that they see all the games, it's like a player of the rotation, like one more player. But for us, it's like a good player that has, like, knows the game, knows what he has to do in the game, and has this, like, play, for example, with JT, the pick and roll or the pick and pop, that works, like, extremely well. You see in the game, and you see, like, you think, like, the other team watch film, knows how to defend it, but every single time it works. It's, like, incredible. It's like something
that's the beauty. Go ahead, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
It's like something like they have, like, they know how to use it, and you think, like, well, they're gonna, like, catch up to it, but every single time it works.
Well, that's the beauty of it, is there's so many different reads and things they can create out of it, and it all stems from either the physicality of Luke Kornet's screen and his ability to pick off Jayson Tatum's defender, and now it's him against the center, and Tatum just feasts on that mismatch, or Kornet reads the timing of it, and he knows he's got to slip a little bit earlier and short roll to the basket so Tatum can get him the ball on time. So much of it stems from just reading and reacting, and there's different levers they can always pull. So it really doesn't matter, in a sense, what the defense does. The Celtics have the advantage out of this. And Leo, to your point about Luke Kornet for most improved player of the year, and we got to start making that noise much louder. So I'll join you in the movement there, especially on social media. But I mean, no one had on their bingo card coming into this season that behind Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic, the second best pick and roll partnership would be Jayson Tatum and Luke Kornet. But I mean, those two, like I was saying there, and you made an excellent point about the role that spacing plays in it, but it just seems like it doesn't matter the defense in terms of the personnel on the other team or how they want to play it. Tatum and Kornet combined will get the Celtics a quality look. And as the numbers illustrate there, second most points per possession, it almost always leads to a basket.
Mm-hmm. Are you aware of what Luke's nickname is in our broadcast?
Let's hear it. I'm not aware. This is news to me right now.
No? El Palomo.
Not aware. What is it?
El Palomo. Do you remember the celebration of Luke?
Yeah. I was calling that the Cornish game hen.
Well, for us, it's El Palomo. It's like a big bird. Big bird. Okay.
I like it.
El Palomo Kornet. Can you say it?
Not well, but El Palomo Kornet.
Okay.
Perfect.
We out here. We got to add that to Basketball Reference. we need that on his Wikipedia page So the new movements right now for everyone tuning into this live stream, the new movements are Luke Kornet, make some noise to get him into the most improved player of the year conversation. And also give it to me one more time. El Palomo.
Yes.
El Palomo Kornet. Bueno.
Perfect.
Very good. Very good.
So, yeah. And then another point that really stands out when you watch film, like the breakdown that Leo sent over that we just played, what really stands out is how quickly Jayson Tatum makes the right read. So if the defender comes up, for example, and starts to lean towards being able to play and get over the screen, Tatum's now going to reject the pick and go downhill and put your defense into chaos. And what we've seen from Tatum year after year is his evolution as a facilitator. And I think this goes hand in hand with it, where he's just reached a level that every time down the floor, and even there were times last season where I didn't feel like this applied, but now this year, every time down the floor, Tatum is setting the table, to get his team a quality opportunity every single possession.
Yes. Like he's not getting he's not rushing. He's not like taking a bad shot, a bad read. He always finds the teammate that is alone or has the best opportunity to score. So I think he's you think he can learn more than he has now. He can be better than he is right now. But every single day, every single game, he do something to show you that he can get better and he can be one of the best players in the league. He's obviously for me the best player in our team in the Celtics. But I think he's learning more things. He's doing what he has to do, getting the reads, getting the space, creating the shot for him or maybe the teammate. So I think he's for me, he's doing most things that he didn't do last times. So I think he's learning and finding the ways to help them teammates score and also help the Celtics win.
Because he always make the correct reading. He plays for him and for the team. We have talked a lot about how good was Larry Bird was generating plays. No, I think it's time to talk about JT and playmaking.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, his facilitating is exceptional. And, Leo, I'm curious if you disagree, because there's not a good option for defenses here. But, I mean, how many times do we see them load up to stop Tatum, the scorer, and he just weaponizes it against him? Mm-hmm. And now all of the other Celtics are feasting off of that as he's getting them quality looks because you sent multiple defenders at Tatum and he's a willing passer making the right reads quickly.
Yeah, I think the other players of the team can they have to go ahead. They need to step up. It's the sentence. Dar un paso adelante, Lucky. Sí, step up.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
They need to step up to continue making these right plays. So JT can score. Okay, pass the ball. They took the shot and it's over. Simply.
Yeah, I mean, now a numbers advantage with, for example, Kristaps Porzingis, Derek White, and Drew Holiday, and it's a 3-on-2 or it's a 4-on-3 with those guys, and you're adding Jaylen Brown to the mix. I mean, the personnel on this team, it really is a pick your poison situation here, because if you let Tatum go one-on-one, he's most likely going to score. So there is no good situation here for the defense. And we got two subjects left here. One of them being that Celtics Cavs Eastern Conference Finals preview that seems like we're on a collision course for. But just quickly here, Lucky, we'll start with you. The emergence of Baylor Scheierman. What have you seen from the rookie as he's gotten more opportunities lately?
I think he's playing more freely than any other rookie. If you see any other rookie, he's nervous or he doesn't play as he should play, or he has the rights to play. So I think he's playing more freely. He's a good 3-point shooter. So I was telling Leo the other day, he reminds me of Sam when he started. He has a nice 3-point shooting. he's in a 3-point, like he wasn't born to be a 3-point shooter. He also has a good defense. He plays hard. He knows how to play a team ball team. Like he knows how to play with the team. We saw him against the Nets when he scored 20 points. I think he fit in the right team. Like you will think a team that won the championship last year, what else do they need? And they go ahead and draft Baylor, and he fits right with the team. I think he's the right fit. He's playing amazing. He has a good 3-point shooter. He plays good in the paint. He has good playmaking. We saw yesterday with the assists. I think he's a well-around player. He's doing everything he has to do.
Well said. Leo, what are you seeing from Scheierman lately?
Tell me if you agree with this. I think Baylor is more a future Derrick White like Sam Hauser, but I'm surprised with his 3-point shot in the last game. He's a quarterback in a basketball court. He plays. He see and saw everything what what happens in the court. So I think he's gonna be like Derrick White, not like Sam Hauser, but I think he's playing like a pro. He's playing like a veteran player. ¿Cómo sería salvando las distancias?
Like taking for the distance, like if you say maybe
saving the distance. I think he's more like Manu Ginobili.
I love that. I mean, there's definitely some flash to his game. We saw the behind the back time. He did the rondo last night against the Suns.
Yeah,
there definitely is a little bit of a Ginobili flair. I think Ginobili, and I honestly mean this as a compliment, it felt a little more reckless and like wild and unpredictable on the court than Scheierman, but there is that same panache, if you will.
Without putting pressure on it, because it's unfair. But I think he's more like Derrick White, like Manu, than Sam Hauser. But if he continues shooting like the other night, the other nights, okay, que tire. He shoots. He's gonna shoot. He might shoot.
Yeah, he is a sharpshooter. There's no doubt about that. But like you said there, some of his best traits, and we all know that he was a star quarterback in high school, his ability to put the ball on the floor and how comfortable he is. And Hauser's come a long way with that, but he's not on the same level in that regard as Scheierman, certainly not. And granted, Scheierman's an older prospect, but at the time they entered the NBA, and Scheierman is a facilitator who has this ability to read the floor really well. And that's what enables someone like him to make some of these fancy passes. And so I think you're seeing a lot of those skills that more resemble someone who can run an offense, for example. And that's where those two differ, him and Hauser. And maybe there's bigger changes in terms of contracts that are on the books right now that are not down the line here because the payroll is going to get so expensive. So maybe it's that they're both on the Celtics together for years to come. But just given as it's currently constructed, the cost of Sam Hauser adding in the luxury tax bill, and you're talking around $90 million pretty soon, it wouldn't be surprising if Scheierman ultimately is filling Sam Hauser's minutes. Now, they might have some things that are similar in other parts of their game that are different, but at the same time, what the Celtics did was they drafted an older prospect who perfectly fits their system and what they're looking for, where in today's game, you got to be able to shoot, especially if you play for Joe Mazzulla, and you have to be comfortable putting the ball on the deck and making plays. And Hauser's grown in that area, but Scheierman is, quite frankly, ahead of him in that regard. So he checks the boxes of being this dynamic offensive threat who's put a lot of work into his body. He worked out at the draft process a couple of years ago, and the Celtics were among the teams that told him that, hey, you need to do this. And it's more about your frame than your game. And so now he's added lean mass. He's lost some of the baby fat. And for him, being a good positional defender is going to be crucial to how much you can have him on the floor. And I think we're seeing him really grow in that part of his game, combined with the hustle and the grit, diving on the floor for loose balls, throwing his body out there for offensive rebounds, for example, and just the motor that he plays with. So to me, it's not a surprise when you look at all these ingredients, guys, that Scheierman is capitalizing on his opportunities and therefore looking more and more comfortable out there and getting to be on the floor for longer. So right now, there's a lot to be encouraged for Baylor Scheierman and what he's showing you in his rookie season that he could mean to this team moving forward in the very near future.
Nagi?
Yes, for example, I think yesterday's game, he came in first than Sam Hauser. He also he doesn't have like stints. He has like a couple of minutes in the game, then he goes out, he comes back, and every single time that he comes in the game, he does the same thing every single time. He plays good, he has good minutes, he leaves everything on the court like if it was a playoff game or his last game. So I think that Baylor fits in this group the best out of last rookies that the Celtics drafted. For example, JD, I think he didn't had the chance, or maybe he didn't execute the chance that he had. I think Baylor took that opportunity and is taking the best out of it.
Yeah, I also think it's different when you're a first-round pick compared to Davison going near the end of the draft, but certainly co-sign that statement. And we will cap it here. Final topic, Celtics Cavs. It seems like they're on a collision course for the Eastern Conference Finals. Sizing up that matchup and what we saw in the regular season, Leo, what's your outlook if we get Boston versus Cleveland with a trip to the NBA Finals on the line?
I think Cleveland is the same team than the last year. The difference is that this year they are healthy, so they compete in a tough way. They prepare, like he says at the beginning. They prepare to compete against the Celtics, but I think if Jaylen Brown is okay about his knee, it's healthy. They can stop Donovan Mitchell. I think the Cavs doesn't have so many games in playoffs. So the experience is another thing to consider. I think Celtics in 6, first of all, and then I think the Celtics can beat the Cavs playing like they know, playing seriously. They have so many weapons to take against these Cavs. I love these Cleveland Cavaliers, but I think it's not in the same page than the Celtics.
Well said. Lucky, thoughts on if we see a Celtics Cavaliers Eastern Conference Finals and just your takeaways from their regular season series?
For me, as Leo said, I think if we have if we meet in the playoffs, I think we can beat them. I think if you're healthy, we have a really good team. We have several players that can take the spot and can win games for us, as different as them. I believe for example, they have Donovan Mitchell and all these players, but I think the Celtics have more weapons or more players that can take the responsibility to win the games. And I feel taking out these games that we had in the regular season, I feel with the playoffs, the atmosphere, of course, if they finish first, they're gonna have we're gonna end the series at Game 7 in Cleveland. But I think the atmosphere in the TD Garden, the players, Joe Mazzulla, I think we have the chance to win against them. And I think that if the Celtics play how they should play, hard team, they execute, I think we're gonna win the series against them.
Yeah, those are all excellent points right there. And Leo, like you pointed out, health and having Donovan Mitchell and Jared Allen available is certainly a dramatic difference compared to when these two teams squared off in the playoffs a year ago and Mitchell goes down during the series and Allen's not available for it. I also think there's been a few major changes with this Cavaliers team to take note of, and that is the change in head coach. And I really like JB Bickerstaff, and we're seeing what he's doing in Detroit this season. but for Kenny Atkinson and what he's gotten out of this group, and he has them playing differently and being so much more effective off ball and with their cuts and everything, that's one way. And he's gotten more out of Jared Allen and Evan Mobley in that partnership. Donovan Mitchell's willingness to sacrifice this year. You rewind the clock at this time a year ago, a lot of people thought he was going to leave Cleveland in the offseason. Now he's back. He's got a big contract, and he's at a stage where he's perhaps more comfortable sacrificing and making sure, let me advance some of my other top guys like a Darius Garland for the betterment of my chances of team success. And we're seeing that, and they're getting more out of Garland. Evan Mobley has made a huge leap. I told Jack Simone before the season, I think Evan Mobley makes the All-Star game this season, and props to Evan Mobley for making me look good on that one. And so the combination of Mitchell and Garland being more effective together, same for Mobley and Allen, and the leaps that those younger two of that quartet have made, another major factor for Cleveland, the trade deadline in getting DeAndre Hunter, most notably, and the leap that Ty Jerome has made, someone who's in that 6th man of the year conversation with Pritchard. This is a team that no longer is going to put bad, vulnerable players on the floor. And that's a huge difference maker, along with what Lucky said. If it goes 7, it's in Cleveland. And that was the loudest playoff environment that I traveled to last season. So outside of TD Garden, it was Cleveland, and that place was rocking. And so now, if they really feel like we're the top dogs in the East, we have a chance to knock off the Celtics, this could be our year to get a championship. That place is going to be absolutely electric, especially if there is a game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals between these two. So to me, with all that said, put it to the side, because the more talented, more experienced team, I think the more well-rounded one. And while Donovan Mitchell has proven he can be the best player on the floor against Boston, the guy that I trust the most remains Jayson Tatum. And so to me, I think ultimately I'm with Leo. I think the Celtics are able to handle business. Caveats apply. Everyone's healthy for both sides. I think the Celtics win that series and go back to the finals. I think they win it in 6, and not that they can't win in Cleveland in 7, just like years ago, they won in Milwaukee in game 6 with their season on the line. I ultimately think the Celtics avoid that scenario and they wrap it up at TD Garden, because for as important as home court is in the playoffs, it can flip on a dime. And the Celtics have been the best road team in the NBA this season. So I think they ultimately handle business. Leo, we're going to start with you. I'm going to give you the floor right now to go ahead and plug and promote anything you want, from social media handles and letting people know where they can find you, to any of the exceptional work that you've put out. So go ahead right now. The floor is yours.
I hope the people can find me in Boston, but I'm still here in Buenos Aires. So they can find me in @Leo Margo, like my name is here. And with Lucky, with Andrés Villar, with Jonah Perez, we make Camino al Garden, @Camino al Garden. We talk about the Celtics. We broadcast the Celtics games in playback.tv / Camino al Garden. So we invite everyone to watch our broadcasts. And I have one more question to you, Bobby.
Let's hear it.
Lucky too. But do you think Cleveland has enough playoff scars to beat the Celtics?
I think that can often be overrated. And I think that Cleveland, that their players have been in the league long enough. The playoffs are a different animal than the regular season for sure. But I think their guys, even the most important younger ones, the one that you'd have the most concerns about are Garland and Mobley. But I think Mobley's made enough of a leap, and that with Garland, he's someone who the Cavaliers have the luxury of, if it's not going well for him, that might not necessarily sink them, depending on how someone like a Ty Jerome steps up or how they change the lineup. Maybe it's more DeAndre Hunter, less Darius Garland in that scenario. So I think they have the flexibility and enough experience to be just fine in that regard.
For me, it's more of the same. I think they're ready. They have good players that they play good in the regular season. Obviously, the playoffs are like different. It's a different atmosphere. It's like different games. But I think they they have that leap. They have the game to play in the playoffs. I hope the Celtics win, of course, but I think the Cavs are like taking from the East the most ready team for the playoffs out of every single one of them.
And is it
Leo,
the
you want to
same
answer
for
your own
the-
question?
No, thank you. But I'm gonna make another questions.
Fire away.
Is it the same for the Thunder, for OKC?
I'm not worried about their lack of experience at all. And
Mhm.
I'm willing to loudly be wrong about that. If they go down in the playoffs and it's because of they just weren't ready, it's not their time, then so be it. Like them, I'll have to wear that. But that is a really good, really well-coached team. And it rings hollow to me, the idea that lack of playoff experience is going to be what trips up the Thunder. I think it's going to take much more than that, and a team genuinely outplaying them for a best-of-7 series.
I think the same. I think they have they're like a compact team. They have everything. Well coached, well players. Shea for me is like one of the front runners for MVP. They are Caruso, Isaiah Hartenstein. I think they have a well team, and they think like from the West, sorry, they are the ones that are gonna get to the NBA Finals. They're gonna get over Denver. So I think the OKC Thunder are gonna be the finalists from the West.
Leo, if you had to put it on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most concerned for the Thunder's lack of experience, 1 being the least concerned about it, where would you fall?
In 8. I think it's 8. 7,
Very
8. Yeah. I think they are unbearable. They are, no, really, they are a very good team, and they are unbearable. So, but I think the Celtics can beat them.
Oh, definitely. I think the Celtics can beat them. And it's so interesting to see what unfolded in their 2 regular season meetings. The Celtics dominated them in the first half in Oklahoma City, and then the Thunder returned the favor. And then it was a back and forth game in Boston, despite the Celtics not playing remotely close to their best brand of basketball. They shot it horrifically from 3 and found other ways to stay in the game. I also think they discovered that even if it's just a couple possessions here and there, they can at least experiment with Peyton Pritchard guarding SGA. I thought he did the best on ball against him that night in Boston. And so that's a positive takeaway, as is the fact that, hey, we played pretty poorly. The shooting variance dramatically worked against us, and we were still right there with them. In the second half, it was only 55-52 OKC. So I do think the Celtics are the better team. And over a best of 7, you usually don't get a team that shoots the ball well from 3 and operates like the Celtics that have it go that poorly for them for, 4 games that it ultimately cost them. It's usually not how the math plays out.
I think the same. Like in a series of 7 games, I think the Celtics are not gonna play as bad as they played against OKC. If you're gonna say like bad, because they didn't play like bad enough, and I think like OKC doesn't have like the power, if you're gonna say like that, to play as best as they can, like those 4 games. If you're gonna say like 4-0, the sweep, but I think the Celtics can win against them easy in 6.
And
Easy.
Lucky,
Wow.
Go ahead, Leo.
No, easy. Wow.
Yeah, Lucky's got it like this.
Oh yeah, of course.
Wipe their hands with it. We'll see you guys back here for another parade. That works for me. Sign me up. Lucky, we need you to be here this time. Leo, we had the privilege of you being with us during the finals run. So Lucky, you come to this go around should the Celtics get there, and we're all predicting they will. So hopefully that comes to fruition. Leo had the floor. He plugged everything. Shout out to the Camino al Garden family. Go find Leo on social media and support his outstanding work. Lucky, the floor is yours now to do the same, especially letting people know where they can follow you on social media.
So first of all, thank you for the opportunity to be here. I appreciate it. It's like it's awesome. You are one of the nicest people that I met in this journey being over there in Boston. I have
that.
My personal account is the one that is on the bottom right there, Celtics Arch of Argentina, ARG1. And then you can also find us in Camino al Garden. I'm going to spell it so everybody can find it the right way. It's CAMINOALGARDEN. Camino al Garden. It's like road to the garden in English for everybody to find us.
Camino al Garden. You've got no more excuses to sleep on it. So everyone who's not already, go ahead and follow them. Rectify that mistake. Again, they do outstanding work. You can see Lucky and Leo showing you how to spell it. So this has been teed up on a silver platter for you. Go enjoy. Trust me, you will reap the benefits of following both of them individually, the Camino al Garden account, and being sure to consume their content to be a more informed and, quite frankly, entertained fan, because that's a huge part of what we're all out here doing as well. So shout out to Leo and Lucky and the Camino al Garden family. Thank you to you two for taking the time to join me on this edition of Celtics Rundown. We'll be back next week.